day after his death. It wasn't even hours after. Of somebody who was there, sat next to him, watched him, took notice of his withdrawn behavior. It's a whole video.
Taquari just broke his silence, and it's shaking the internet. He's spilling everything about why his own brother allegedly set up Duke the jeweler. And he's bringing receipts. The claims are wild, the tension is thick, and in the middle of it all, Boosie had to jump in to defend himself. The story around Duke's tragic death has gotten so messy that people are starting to seriously question if Boosie and his crew are as innocent as they claim. Duke was shot and lost his life in Houston right after a high-stakes dice game where he reportedly cleaned house. Word is Duke walked away with some major wins that night. But here's where it gets real. Right before his death, Duke was hanging with Boosie. They even snapped a photo together that ended up being one of Duke's last posts on Instagram.
Dudes had tried to rob me and walked off by himself, bro. I had just met dude yesterday.
Not long after that, Boosie started saying he barely even knew Duke. He told folks that Duke had just shown up at one of his concerts, chilled for a bit, then dipped solo after the show. Boosie claimed, "Some dudes had tried to rob me, and Duke walked off by himself. I had just met Dude yesterday." Later, he went on Vlad TV to clear the air, swearing up and down that he had nothing to do with what happened to Duke the jeweler. Boosie kept stressing that he and Duke were barely acquaintances, just met at a dice game, talked a bit, and that was it. But then Duke ends up dead right after? Boosie even admitted it could have been him if the timing had been different. That's how close it got.
I'm gonna tear that up. Black velvet jacket with an afro.
I put that on trouble.
He said Duke left on his own, walked to the parking lot, and that's when tragedy struck. Boosie swore he wasn't anywhere near the scene when the shots went off. He doubled down, saying his team's too successful to be plotting over a few stacks from a dice game. But fans online aren't convinced. Not one bit. They're side-eyeing every word, saying Boosie sounds way too defensive. And that's the real kicker. When someone has to talk that much to prove they're innocent, people start wondering why. The fact that Duke was last seen with Boosie before losing his life? That's a red flag the internet can't ignore. And Boosie's interview, let's just say, it raised more questions than it answered. People are seriously second-guessing Boosie's credibility right now, and this is where things start getting real murky. Boosie keeps saying his crew is solid, that they don't move grimy unless there's something serious on the line. He's also been bragging that everyone around him is well off. Money ain't their problem. So folks can't wrap their heads around why anyone from his circle would risk it all to rob or hurt somebody. Unless, of course, there's way more to this story than Boosie's letting on. But that's not even the wildest part. TQ, Boosie's own blood, has jumped into the chaos. Yeah, the same TQ who's called him out before for fraud, favoritism, and family drama.
And you know, we was about it because obviously they were watching us. You know, obviously they were waiting for anybody to walk across that parking lot to them cars and getting them cars.
Now TQ's talking spicy again, saying he's got receipts proving Duke's death wasn't random, that it was a full-blown setup. The internet's going crazy trying to figure out why he's coming forward now. Is it revenge, clout, or could he really be telling the truth? Because if TQ's claims check out, Boosie's name might be tied deeper in this than anyone expected. So let's rewind and really look at Duke the jeweler's story, because this whole thing still feels off. Duke was a big-time jeweler out of Chicago, known for flooding rappers with custom ice. He flew into Houston for Labor Day weekend 2022, supposedly to link with Boosie for business. People say Duke was carrying heavy that trip, over $1 million in jewelry and cash. That's a serious bag to be flashing in a city like Houston. That same day, Duke hit a celebrity boxing match, then later pulled up to a private dice game where Boosie and some other big names were hanging out. Boosie even admitted Duke was rolling big that night, gambling hard, though he swore Duke didn't win anything major. According to Boosie, Duke stayed chill, no drama, even after losing what he brought to the table. Later, Boosie supposedly asked Duke to design him a custom chain, and Duke said he'd hook him up with something cold as a sign of respect. Just one day later, at Boosie's concert, Duke showed up again. Everything seemed normal, until after the show, when Duke walked out alone toward his car and never made it. Witnesses said two masked men jumped out of a black GMC, ran up, and started blasting before snatching Duke's jewelry and bag, then sped off. It was fast, clean, and looked way too professional to be random. Boosie's been repeating the same line ever since. It wasn't me, it wasn't my people, Duke left alone. He swears someone must have been following Duke from the start, waiting for the right moment to strike. Now the feds are knee-deep in the case, trying to piece together who was at that dice game and if this was a setup from the very beginning. But let's be real, no charges, no suspects, no closure. Duke's jewelry still missing, Boosie still defending himself, and the streets still talking. The timing makes it even worse, because right after Duke was killed, Boosie got pulled over. And that's when everything about this story started looking even more suspicious. What was supposed to be a simple traffic stop turned into a full-blown mystery. The timing was way too suspicious. It happened right after Duke got robbed and killed. Fans online immediately started connecting the dots, saying this was no coincidence. Once the feds jumped in, things got serious fast. They made it clear this wasn't just another rapper caught in legal trouble type of story. This was a separate federal investigation, and Boosie wasn't just a witness anymore. He was being watched. Then Duke's brother, Stax, came forward and didn't hold back. He straight up called it what he believed it was, a setup. No hinting, no sugarcoating, just raw accusations. He's been digging deep, checking footage, timestamps, even text records trying to prove what really went down that night. To Stax, it's crystal clear. He believes Boosie lined up his brother, and that's a heavy claim to make publicly. Now let's talk about Duke for a second. This wasn't some random guy. Duke the jeweler was respected across the industry, known for designing high-end pieces for major names. That night, he showed up to Houston looking fly, proud of his work, rocking serious ice, but tragically, he never made it out alive. And here's where it all gets even messier. Reports claim Houston PD found Duke's Louis Vuitton bag with jewelry inside Boosie's house. Yeah, not in a studio, not with a friend, not in storage, his house. Word is, Duke had asked Boosie to hold it during the dice game, but after Duke was killed, that bag was never returned to his family. No police report, no statement, just sitting there like it belonged there. And that's not all. Duke's phone? Gone. Vanished. No one's seen it, no one's talking, but the story doesn't stop there. Duke pulled up to Houston with over $1 million in jewelry, links up with Boosie, goes to a dice game, ends up dead, and somehow his bag ends up in Boosie's house? That's not just odd, that's alarming. The feds aren't taking that lightly either. They've been tracing digital data, and here's the bombshell. Duke's phone didn't just disappear into thin air. It pinged right near Boosie's recording studio before going completely dark. That was the last known location. And come on, phones don't just teleport. So unless that phone walked over there by itself, someone in Boosie's circle had it. That's shady no matter how you spin it. When the feds finally got around to checking Duke's rental truck, they were expecting something big. But what they actually found? Let's just say it shocked everyone and made this case 10 times more suspicious. When investigators finally looked deeper, what they found blew everything wide open. Inside the evidence file was a fingerprint that matched Boosie's own nephew. That's blood, family, inner circle, and it didn't stop there. His little cousin got caught up too. That means 2 relatives directly tied to the crime scene. This wasn't internet rumor or street gossip. This was forensic evidence. Things were officially getting way too close to home. According to reports, one witness who just stepped outside to smoke saw something that changed everything. They said Duke was leaving Boosie's spot. Calm, casual, like business as usual. No tension, no signs of trouble. But then, out of nowhere, Boosie's nephew slid out the side of the house, not the front, like he'd been waiting, posted up, watching. To some, that looked like a clear setup. It's the kind of move that makes you think the whole thing might have been planned from the jump. Word from both federal files and street talk says Duke didn't go down easy either. He saw something was off and tried to swing first, tried to defend himself, but it was already too late. Boosie's nephew allegedly pulled the strap and fired, ending everything in seconds. That moment turned what could have been a misunderstanding into what looked like a targeted hit. Now, the wildest part, Duke's jewelry didn't vanish into thin air. According to investigators, it ended up being kept by Boosie's cousin and his people. Whether they held onto it or robbed him outright doesn't even matter at this point. The fact is, they had it. And that right there is enough to make the feds tighten the screws on everybody involved. But that's not the only storm Boosie's been caught in, because once you bring TQ into the mix, things turn ugly fast. Boosie and his brother TQ haven't spoken in forever, and this beef runs deep. We're talking lawsuits, fraud claims, and over $360,000 missing from Boosie's account, according to official court papers. Boosie said TQ forged his signature and even helped Boosie's artist Young Blue sign with Empire behind his back. That's not just disloyal, that's betrayal with ink and paperwork. Of course, TQ says it's all cap. He denies every bit of it. He's claiming Boosie's paranoid, making false accusations, and twisting stories for sympathy. But Boosie? He's not letting that slide. He's told the world straight up that TQ and everyone on that side of the family are cut off for good. And that's the part that really hurts, because this whole mess isn't just about business or money, it's personal. Boosie's talked openly about how deep that family pain runs, how he feels like even their own mother has always taken TQ's side. That kind of betrayal hits different. And now, with everything going on, the murder case, the family split, the feds closing in, it feels like Boosie's world is crumbling from every direction. Even after everything that's gone down, Boosie says he feels completely shunned. Like no matter how much he's done, no matter what he survived, his mama will always choose TQ. And to make it sting worse, word is she's been asking Boosie to drop the lawsuits. That's wild. Boosie's been saying this favoritism didn't just pop up because of the money drama, it's been there since day one. According to him, TQ's always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, while Boosie's had to fight his whole life just to be respected. Now, on top of feeling financially betrayed, he's carrying decades of family pain that just got ripped wide open. From the outside, it's heartbreaking. Nobody wants to see brothers go to war like this, especially when it's playing out in public. But let's be real. We're talking $360,000 and alleged forgery. That's not something you fix with a hug at Thanksgiving. This isn't some petty sibling argument. This is real damage. Boosie's dealing with wounds that cut deep, to his pockets, to his pride, and to his peace of mind. As of now, there's zero sign of reconciliation. He's done with TQ, the lawsuits are still floating around, and those emotional scars, still fresh and bleeding. It's sad, but true. Sometimes family can do you dirtier than strangers ever could, and that's exactly how it's looking right now. But here's where it gets even crazier. Boosie isn't the only one who's been dragged into this Duke the Jeweler mess, because somehow J. Prince ended up getting side-eyed too. Yeah, that's right. Street politics came knocking. Everyone started asking how this could have even happened under J. Prince's watch. See, he's famous for running that check-in rule in Houston. The code is simple. If you're coming into the city, especially if you're famous or flashy, you check in. It's supposed to keep you safe. But if Duke did check in and still got hit like that, that's a serious problem. People in the streets are whispering. If J. Prince really controls the scene the way folks say he does, how did a high-profile jeweler end up getting ambushed and killed after checking in? Either someone broke the rules, or the rules don't protect like they used to. And that question alone has Houston buzzing. People started whispering right away. Did somebody give the green light? Because when you're in J. Prince's city and something like this goes down, everybody starts wondering who really allowed it to happen. Folks saw Duke gambling just hours before his death. And not just with Boosie, but with J. Prince Jr. too. That alone had the internet losing its mind, convinced there was way more to this story than anyone was admitting. But J. Prince wasn't having it. He came out swinging, saying just because his name carries weight doesn't mean he's pulling strings every time something bad happens. He said flat out that people, including the police and media, were trying to drag his name through the dirt without a shred of proof. No charges, no suspects, no connection. Nothing but rumors and assumptions. Even J. Prince Jr. jumped in to set the record straight. He said neither Duke's death nor takeoffs had anything to do with dice games, setups, or his circle. According to him, it was all just a mix of tragic timing. He was firm about it too. His crew had zero involvement, and the police never listed him or his father as suspects. To this day, there's still no credible evidence tying the Princes to what happened that night. But let's be real, this ain't just about paperwork or legal proof. This is about perception. When you're a power figure in hip-hop like J. Prince, people automatically assume you know everything happening in your orbit. That's the price of influence. When the streets respect you, they also expect you to have control. So when something deadly happens near your circle, even if you're innocent, folks still want answers. That's the double-edged sword of street power. The same influence that protects your name can also put a target on your back. And in this case, J. Prince's name got dragged through headlines and blogs all over the internet. Not because of evidence, but because of energy. People felt something didn't sit right, and perception alone can be deadly in this game. Soon, even the whole check-in culture he built his reputation on started getting questioned. Like, if checking in doesn't guarantee your safety, what's the point? Are these rules really about respect? Or are they just street politics dressed up as tradition? That's what people are starting to ask. At the end of the day, it's all speculation. No receipts, no proof, just tension in the air and way too many unanswered questions. No real leads, no solid answers, just a mess of rumors, whispers, and gut feelings. And J. Prince sounds done with it all. He's been saying he's tired of being everyone's scapegoat. Just because my name rings bells don't mean I'm the one ringing them. That's what he said, loud and clear. But still, let's be honest. The timing, the names involved, the Houston ties, it's a lot. And until people feel like they've got closure, the streets are gonna keep talking, no matter what he says. Then came Charleston White, who had plenty to say about Duke the Jeweler's death, and he did not sugarcoat it. He said it hurt to see someone like Duke lose his life like that, especially in a place where he should have felt safe. To Charleston, it was yet another heartbreaking case of violence within the Black community, and he went off about it. Charleston didn't just speak, he pointed fingers too. He called out mob ties, mainly J. Prince Jr. and his crew, saying they've turned Houston into a dangerous trap for rappers and entertainers. According to him, when artists check in with those guys, they end up dragged into high-stakes dice games that are already rigged from the start. He said Duke walked right into that same setup, thinking he was among friends when in reality, he was being played. And Charleston's been consistent. This ain't new talk for him. He's been saying for a while that what people call protection in the music industry is really just extortion in disguise. He believes it's a cycle, one where money, power, and fear keep feeding each other. And nobody's calling it out because they're too scared to lose connections. In his view, Duke's death wasn't random at all. It was a wake-up call that exposed how toxic the game has become. Meanwhile, with all this noise surrounding Duke's case, Boosie's name is right back under the spotlight too. The feds are reportedly taking a closer look, not just at him, but at everyone around him. And it's not surprising either. Boosie's had a long, rocky history with law enforcement. Yeah, he's beaten a bunch of cases in the past, but that kind of attention never really goes away. Once the feds got your name in their files, they don't forget. And now, with old stories about his brother TQ and those fraud allegations bubbling back up, people are saying it's only a matter of time before investigators start connecting those dots again. It's not just about what happened years ago. It's about how all these threads might be tangled together right now. And if the feds start digging deeper this time, Boosie might have a much bigger fight on his hands. At this point, it's not just about Boosie, it's about who's around him now, who's getting caught up in what, and how deep the feds are willing to dig. Because when one person in the circle gets jammed up, the feds start pulling every thread they can find until the whole web unravels. And let's be real, Boosie's never been the type to play nice or stay quiet. That attitude, it makes him stand out, and sometimes it makes him a target. Meanwhile, J. Prince's name never seems to leave the conversation whenever something major happens in Houston. He's managed to keep himself out of legal trouble for years, but every time there's a big situation, whether it's mob ties, Takeoff, or Duke the Jeweler, people start asking the same questions all over again. How much control does J. Prince really have? And more importantly, is anyone ever gonna step in? So far, there's been no official action taken against him, nothing concrete, no charges. But when your name keeps showing up in enough high-profile situations, dice games, check-ins, or just being present when chaos breaks out, that kind of heat doesn't just fade away. Eventually, all that attention starts turning into pressure, and that's the kind the feds love. Right now, it's hard to say if law enforcement's ready to make a move or just sitting back gathering intel. But one thing's crystal clear, everybody's watching. Every headline, every post, every interview, eyes are locked in to see what happens next. Will Boosie and J. Prince keep skating past the fire like they always do, or is something bigger brewing quietly behind the scenes? Because when you mix family drama, street politics, and federal eyes in the same pot, something's bound to boil over sooner or later. Let us know what you think in the comments, and if you're still locked in with us, don't dip out yet. Check out the next video because things are about to get even wilder.